Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to week 2 of the Supreme Self-Development and Awareness online sessions. My name is Tanya Newton, once again. I'm a psychologist, and I'm going to be taking you through emotional intelligence. Um, I forgot to say this last time, but I know that my colleagues may have. So when you come each week, there's a few things I want you to have with you just in case you need them. So those would be pencil or a pen, right? And a piece of paper or a notebook or anything you think you might need if you want to keep up with what I'm saying, or if you want to make notes, or if you have questions and you want to ask them later on. Remember, you can ask your questions in the comment section, or if you're a part of the Zoom call, you can actually pose your questions at the end. All right. So this week, before we jump straight into the topic, I actually want to get into um, the activity that we would have done last time. Right? So I would have promised you last time that when we come this week, we would look at some of the responses. I actually went on and I checked to see what people had said, and I'm also going to give you the answers today. Right? Before I jump straight into that, though, there are some things I would have noticed, and there are some things that I expected to notice and I wanted to highlight when we came this week. A lot of persons gave responses that kind of reflect how we are in terms of interpreting emotions, where a lot of people might have seen a particular emotion in a face, but it wasn't one of the ones on the list, or they might have used a different word from the list for each emotion. And what it speaks to is not just how we, well, not just how easy it is for some of us to interpret emotions, but also to how different emotions can look on people's faces and how we can see them and misinterpret or have another interpretation for what a person might be experiencing. But I'll get a little bit deeper into that as we go through the answers, right? And I want you to think about or comment how many you actually got right from last time. Okay? So bringing up the first, right? So the first thing, I gave you this list of emotions. It would have been disappointed, worried, jealous, frustrated, and confused. And it also told you that there was at least one that could have been looked at different ways. When we get into the actual responses, you'll realize that there are others that persons actually interpreted in a different way. First slide. So for a lot of people, this one, I wouldn't say it was tricky, but I found that people who responded, the correct answer is disappointed, but they would have said that he looked sad, which again was not on the list, but it goes back to what we were talking about in terms of complex emotions, where you have emotions that really are a combination of more than one thing. And disappointment, he would be sad, but it would also involve some measure of anticipation where maybe you expected something to happen or you expected something to go a certain way, but then it didn't, and that leaves you with a disappointed feeling. The next one, surprised. And this one is another one that when I tried it with other persons, yes, most people said surprised, but other people actually thought she seemed somewhat fearful in her response. Sorry, not in her response, in the way that she looks. So their interpretation of that look on her face was not just surprise, but also a little bit of being afraid. Next one. This one is the one that I was telling you might have two ways of looking at it. So when I looked for it, it was actually supposed to illustrate someone who was confused. But then if you really look at it, it also could be someone who's frustrated, right? And again, that goes back to people having different interpretations of what emotions actually look like in others. Next one. And this one is one that some people really thought he just looked angry, but it really was meant to illustrate someone who was jealous. And what is interesting is that jealousy will look and feel different for many people. When you look for pictures that illustrate what jealousy looks like, they don't all look the same. And it's very hard to pick up when someone looks jealous of someone else. But I do want to commend the persons who got all of them right or some of them right, and especially those who were able to pick up what this one was referring to. So we're going to jump in now to our topic for today, which is actually going to be looking again at emotional intelligence. So if you remember what I would have said last time, we're going to be using that definition of emotional intelligence. We talked last week a lot about how it is our ability to recognize emotions. And that's what the activity was really about. Us being able to recognize emotions as we see them in other people. But today we are more focusing on recognizing emotions as we experience them in ourselves and also in understanding and dealing with our own emotions. So we're going to use this as a guide for the rest of the weeks. But for today, we're focusing on that first part. We were talking about recognizing, understanding, and dealing with our own emotions. So if we are talking about understanding emotions, what exactly do we mean? So when we're saying understanding, we're really saying, how do I make sense of my emotions? How do I make sense of what exactly I'm feeling, right? And remember that emotions really are natural reactions we have to something that has happened, to our environment, our relationship with others, or to our mood, right? But along with emotions, we have a particular experience or a feeling. And in this case, when I say a feeling, I'm not talking about feelings. I'm talking about a physical feeling that you might have that goes along with an emotion you're experiencing. So if we take, for example, anger. I know for me, when I get angry, I have this feeling like my ears are hot, like my ears are on fire. And it's a very uncomfortable feeling that I would experience. I also know that other people don't always have that same experience. Other people have things like they feel their fists start to clench, or they feel like it's hard for them to breathe, or they feel like they would just destroy everything. They start to feel an urge to destroy things. And that is a way that they can tell, okay, I am feeling angry right now. Another emotion that is easier to pinpoint or that has an accompanying physical feeling is when you start to feel afraid. For a lot of us, when we are fearful of something, we will feel an uncomfortable or an uneasy feeling within our bodies. And because we have that uncomfortable or uneasy feeling within our bodies, it can let us know, okay, I am feeling a little bit afraid, right? And the importance of all of this goes to how we actually deal with emotions. So it's about what can I do with this information. So let's say I learn to tell when I feel fearful, right? But let's say I'm not in a situation where I should be fearful. Because I can cue into that feeling of I feel fearful, I know what it is I need or what is going on around me. If let's say I have a test coming up. It's 9 a.m. I just got to school. My test is at 9:30 a.m. I can say that I might be feeling anxious or fearful because I have this test coming up. And it can let me know, okay, So I'm fearful because of this test coming up. But it could be in any situation where you feel fearful or you experience any kind of emotion, and it lets you know what it is that you're experiencing. But it also lets you know what you can do about that feeling. So if we use the same example where you have a test and you are fearful because you have this test, you can then maybe talk to a friend who can help you with maybe calming down or reassure you. You can express those fears to someone else. Um, or if you have things that you practice doing that help you to calm down, you know, all right, this is the time where I can do those things. Do I need to move away from everybody else? Because sometimes before tests, everybody starts talking about, oh, I studied this and I feel like this is going to come, or I feel like I'm going to fail, or I know I'm going to pass. And those things can affect us. But if you know that when you get in that emotional state, you need to move away from people, then you can tell yourself, well, I need to go off by myself until 9:30 when my test has to start. You can also use it if you are really, really excited about something. Let's say the test has already happened and you were expecting at most you would get, let's say, 70%. But then when you get by the test, you actually got 85. Now you know you're starting to feel excited, and you know that when you feel excited, you feel the urge to run around. But in the middle of your class is not the time to take a brisk jog around your school. So you would know, all right, well, now is not the time that I can do this. I can find another way where I can actually express that emotion. I can get it out of my system. I can share my excitement in some other way, right? And that is how we look at both understanding and then dealing with our emotions. So we're going to move on now to EQ, emotional intelligence or emotional quotient, right? And my question to you is, do you think that you have a higher, do you think you have higher emotional intelligence? Do you think that all of the things I've been describing in terms of looking at emotional intelligence are things that refer to you? Do you think that you are able to recognize emotions within yourself? Do you think you're able to recognize emotions easily within others? Do you think that once you have an awareness of these emotions, you know what to do with them and you can express them or you can manage them, right? And the next thing is, how can I tell if I have a higher EQ? First important thing is that some people naturally have a higher EQ. Some people find it much easier than others to interpret emotions, to work with emotions, express emotions, face emotions, all of those things. But then there are other people who struggle a little bit, and that doesn't mean that there's anything better about persons with a higher EQ or anything worse about persons who don't have a higher EQ. What it simply means is that um, others just have to learn, or they have to take the time to focus so that they can develop their emotional intelligence. Okay? And some of the characteristics that I want to highlight about persons with higher emotional intelligence, I'm going to list now. So one of the first ones is being more observant. So persons with a higher EQ are thought to be able to observe emotions better, to interpret emotions of others better, and to make sense of what others are showing them. That is one of the things that's supposed to be a marker of a person with a higher emotional intelligence. They're also thought to be more aware of what they feel. Now remember, like I said, today we're focusing on being able to recognize the emotions that we have, what they feel like for us. And this is very important because you always have to remember, in terms of emotional intelligence, your feelings or the way that your feelings show up within you are not always going to be the same with other people. Like the example I gave earlier, where my ears get hot, but then other people's ears don't get hot. But then someone else might feel when they're angry to destroy things. Like that's the urge that they have, but I wouldn't have that urge, right? So you're more aware of what you feel. And it also works along with being more observant, where you can observe that although it doesn't look the same in someone else, you understand what they feel. Next one is that persons with a naturally higher EQ, or persons with a higher EQ overall, are better able to express or communicate their feelings. So it's not just about being able to pick up on what you feel, because that's fine, but you also have to be able to express or communicate those feelings. For some people, that is, saying to somebody else, this is the emotion I'm feeling right now. This is the way that I feel. This is the feeling I'm having. But for other people, it might be that they can't put it into words, even though they can tell what they feel, but they can put it in music. They can put it into drama, they can put it into a painting, they can express it with art. Any of those things are things that they're able to do because they are more in touch or connected with their emotions. They also have better control over their emotions. And when I say control over your emotions, I'm not talking about, yeah, I feel angry, I can stop feeling angry. That's not what I mean at all. If you're saying that you have better control over your emotions, is that you know you feel angry, but you also know how you can get that anger out. And there are different ways for different people. Some people have to talk it out. Some people have to shout it out, scream it out. Some people need to hit something. Some people need to move away from others. But it means that when they start to feel angry, or if they start to feel sad, or if they start to feel anxious, they are aware of the things they can do so that they can get those emotions out instead of either trying to push them down inside or pretend that they don't exist or ignore them completely. I know sometimes we might feel sad and someone might say to us, like, it doesn't make any sense crying. So you stifle your cries, but then you still feel sad. And it doesn't help you to feel better because no, not only are you still feeling sad, but then you're feeling like there's this thing you have to hide away or shut away or push aside. But if you have an understanding or a better control over your emotions, you might be able to, maybe go off and cry or cry later, or you might be able, like I said before, to put that into something else, music, art, whatever you need to put it into, so that you are able to release those emotions. And the next part is that persons with a higher EQ, or persons who are more emotionally intelligent, are often thought to be more empathetic. And I'm actually going to explain empathy with the next slide. So the first word, sympathy, is a thing that we're more used to, is a thing we hear about more often. We hear people say that they're expressing their deepest sympathies for someone who's experienced some kind of loss. Or often we sympathize with people because they've had a bad experience. So sympathy is feeling bad for someone else, or feeling bad that something has happened to someone else. It is knowing what they're going through, even if you're not really connected to what they're going through. Empathy, on the other hand, is actually feeling with other people. So it's your ability to feel what someone else is feeling, even if you are not, or you have not been in the same situation. So if you see someone who is sad or worried or scared or excited about something, you are able to put yourself in their place. You're able to relate to the emotion they're experiencing, even though in that moment you aren't feeling the same way. So one example I like to use is, let's say you have a friend who studied for a test. You both studied for this test. Your friend was trying to get at least 80%. You just wanted to pass. Your friend, despite all their studying on the day of the exam, they just kind of fell short and they got maybe 50 or 60%. and they're feeling that same disappointed feeling that we would have been talking about earlier. But you within yourself feel good because you got maybe 50%. And what were you trying to do? You were trying to pass, right? But you're able to be with that person in that moment and realize that you might not be feeling bad about the situation, but you understand what it is to feel bad about the situation because you're not there, you're not the one who's involved in it, but you can connect with it. So it really is being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, right? So I want you to, we're going to talk about the difference now, just to make it clearer, between being sympathetic and being empathetic. So the young man here is worried because he doesn't think he passed his test, right? Now, when you are sympathetic, you might say something like, "Child boy, that one rough," right? You might express certain things that like Orkadir, like you might express certain things that we normally say here that would show, yeah, I get that you're feeling sad, but it's not really that I connect with that feeling of sadness that you're experiencing. I just get it. I get it. You feel sad. Um, on the other hand, more empathetic statements might be, I understand how you feel. It's scary, or I've worried about that too. So you're expressing to the person that, well, in that moment, you are not feeling the same thing they're feeling because you're not having their experience. In that moment, you get it. Like, you get what it is like to feel the way that that person is feeling. So moving on to the right. So I don't know if I said it last time, but I intended to. What we're gonna try to do is understand what our own emotions feel like, right? I know what my emotions feel like for me, some of them. And what I want you to do, your activity for this week, is to write down or draw or describe what your emotions will feel like for you. We can bring up the next one. Right. So I have here this outline for you, and that is for you to use for your own activity, right? And there are three things I want you to do. The first thing is you can either draw, or if you can find it, you can print out an image or an image like this. It doesn't have to be the same one, um, but you can use this, and then I want you to choose any two emotions. And there's actually a list of emotions, or you can choose any emotions you can think of. And out of those emotions, I just want you to draw two. Now, with the diagram, you can either you can draw on it. So you can draw on faces that would show the emotions. You can color it in the different colors of the emotions that you experience. So if you assign, let's say, green to happiness and yellow to, I don't know, worry, then you can, color the parts of the diagram where you experience those. So for me, I know that when I feel afraid or when I'm worried, I feel it in my stomach and I feel it in my head and I feel it in my chest, right? It might not be the same for other people. When I'm feeling anxious, I have a tendency to feel it in my feet where I feel more restless, or I can't sit still, or I can't keep quiet. And when I feel happiness, I have a tendency to feel it all over my body, but I especially feel it in my face, in this area, and also in the area around my eyes, and I feel it there because I smile a lot more and my eyes tend to disappear into tiny little slits, right? So it's going to be different for different people. You don't have to choose those emotions. Like I said, you can choose any emotions that you think um, you connect with more. This is a long list. You can choose from these. You can choose something else. I leave that up to you. But I want you to start trying to connect with the feeling, the physical feeling that emotions give you, so that you have a better understanding of what you can actually do to deal with those emotions when they come up. Right? So what have we looked at today? Today we went into emotions and feelings. We looked at, emotions again, what exactly they are, but we also looked at the physical feeling that some of us might experience when dealing with certain emotions, right? And like I said, it's not the same for everybody. One thing might feel a certain way to me, but then it might feel a different way to my colleagues, and it might feel a different way to my family members, right? And then there are also persons who have similar physical experiences when they feel certain emotions, right? We also looked at empathy and sympathy, where we distinguished between what exactly what exactly empathy is and what exactly sympathy is. And we're actually going to deal with those more as we get further into the sessions. And we also looked at how we can understand or how we can deal with the emotions that we experience, right? And a lot of what we're going to do, or a lot of the understanding and dealing with our own emotions is not just going to be dealt with by me, but it's also going to be dealt with by my colleagues as they go through their sessions. So it's not just here where we explore, being more emotionally intelligent, but it's also in the other sessions where you're going to learn how to deal with certain emotions that are going to come up as you go through life and you interact with people and you have different experiences. When I see you guys next week, we are going to go into self-awareness, right? So we're going to look at what exactly is it to be self-aware, why is it that we need to be self-aware, and how can we become more self-aware. I know some of us will be starting a little advanced. Some of us know ourselves very, very well. We know so much about ourselves, but there's always more to learn. And then there are people who don't really have that level of self-awareness, and they will get a chance to learn more about who they are and why they experience the things they experience and how they can utilize the information they learn about themselves to have a happier or I don't know, well, happier life, yes, but better relationships with others, right? So that's it in terms of what I was going through today. But what I want to do now is if there is anyone on Zoom who has any questions, any things they were curious about, anything they want to go over, we can do that now. So does that mean that everybody understands?
Yes, please.
I can't hear you.
Yes, please.
So that means you know what emotional intelligence is? Sorry, not emotional intelligence is. You understand what it is to recognize, understand, and deal with your own emotions?
Yes, please.
So what does that mean to you? If I say I can recognize my own emotions, what does that mean?
that you know yourself.
Do you know yourself? Okay. What about um, dealing with your emotions? What does that mean?
Pardon me?
What does it mean if you can deal with your emotions?
Feel with it.
Deal, Deal. So what can you do to deal with your emotions?
I mean, like anger and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're angry, you could like walk away from the people that is making you angry or upset.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's very good, Jaden.
happiness
Mm-hmm.
you could deal with it and like you could you could you could deal with it in a way that others cannot see.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's one way, yeah. Anybody else wanna respond as well? No, all right. Okay. Well, in that case, I'm gonna wrap up here for this week. I hope you had a good time. I hope you learned something. I hope, and I know everybody is comfortable like responding for others to hear, but you can always write down your questions, and if there's anything that you were concerned about, and when I come next week, I will answer. Right?
Okay.
Bye bye.